Hey, Elasticians.
Howdy, y'all. So we're returning. Today we want to talk about ILM help. Index Lifecycle Management in general helps you automate so much of the admin tasks in your cluster in order to keep indices up and responsive, but also kind of handle those billing costs and allow you to kind of balance between the two of them. So super helpful, but because it's doing a lot of automated tests for you with a time delay, sometimes issues surface later. So what we want to cover today on the help is how do you monitor for ILM help to know that over time um, things are still progressing as expected, and if intervention is needed, that you are automatically notified so that you can take action immediately. So today we're going to be using Elastic Cloud. Elastic Cloud has a lot of automated monitoring set up for you. In particular, ILM sitting under Elasticsearch, we want to look at the Elasticsearch cluster help that Elastic Cloud does for you. Yeah, if you can click down and then scroll down to the screenshot if that's okay. So this screenshot highlights that under each Elastic Cloud deployment, Elastic offers a health page. So this health page is going to notify you about various things, admin tasks that need to be accounted for in order to keep your cluster healthy. For us in particular, um, the Elastic Cloud health page loads off of the Elasticsearch Health API. So this, yeah, do you mind clicking? Yeah, thank you. So the Health
Right.
API is going to report about multiple Elasticsearch feature sets. In particular, we want to go look at ILM. So this ILM Health is pulling on an interval in that background. And then anytime something flags, it's going to be added into that list. It's eventually going to surface into the Elastic Cloud Health API, or sorry, UI. So all we potentially have to do is take an ILM that's running happy and healthy and break it so that we can show you it breaking. And then afterwards can say, like at that point, you're being notified that there is something to do. So while we're on this page, let's kind of highlight like the things we'd potentially be looking for are first off, if we stop ILM, it's potentially going to notify us. Second, if a index enters an error state and or even if it's only in a stagnant state. So if ILM was performing an asynchronous transient step and it got caught in it longer than expected, it's also going to notify us then, which is awesome. So this Elasticsearch Health API is what we're going to focus on. In order to do that, we're going to go have to set up some ILM in a test cluster. So
So
in
sorry.
this test cluster, we're going to set up some ILM. Um, by default, Elastic Dev highly recommends that you guys use data streams. Data streams, at least in my experience, are hard to break. And we want to break things today. So today, we're going to focus on the older way to set up indices, which is set up indices with aliases. So if we can click down into manage time series data without data streams, we're going to follow this in order to set up an experience, break it, in order to show you guys how to resolve ILM help.
Great. So prior to recording this, we already set up a test deployment and pre-entered all of the commands we'll be using for our demonstration, strictly for efficiency and ease
Yeah.
of use. Okay, so starting in the dev tools of our test cluster, test deployment, we provided an outline to follow of just what we'll be going through. We'll talk about our software and hardware configuration differences, failing to provide a rollover alias, hot and warm tiers erroring on migrating to warm tier, as well as an error with no frozen tier.
It's
So
going to be
scrolling
lit.
down, what?
Said it's going to be lit.
Yeah,
If this was live in production, I'd be so scared.
I
It'll be
my
fine.
throat gives me heartburn thinking about. So we've pre-created our ILM policy that we'll be applying. This is the software portion, right, of our setup. So you'll see we have a hot tier, warm tier, frozen tier, as well as delete. Now we're gonna jump over. I'm gonna scroll all the way back up to the top. We're gonna scroll over rollover, get it? To our deployment, our console.
I love that more than I should. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the hardware portion. As you can see, we have two hot nodes or instances, whatever you prefer to call them. I call them nodes. One warm node, and there is not a single frozen node to be had. You can also easily view your data tiers right here in this dropdown. You'll see hot, warm, no frozen. Quickly, just jumping back and reflecting on what we're trying to apply on the software level is that we have a hot tier, warm tier, and frozen tier.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to break. Highlighting again, Elastic Cloud attempts to have your back. When you default set up a deployment and it has auto scaling, it will enable data tiers per your ILM request. We had to manually override and disable auto scaling in order to not have that benefit. So we're doing everything possible to make it break.
And that's
It
because
will.
we want to be successful people
Yes.
in the world. Okay, so going back, let's go ahead and apply our policy.
Awesome. Perfect. If I
Exhaustive.
can also call out the line just before, only for testing purposes, not to be live in a cluster, we're going to override ILM so that it polls more frequently so that we can show you this faster. Normally it polls at a 10-minute interval, and that would be a very long video with Annie doing stand up for all of us.
That would
So
be
instead, we want to set it, yeah, will you hit play? We want to set it to a 10-second poll interval. Awesome. Okay, so at this point, when we go and test everything, we should be seeing updates pretty fast and therefore errors pretty fast.
okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so yeah, I was like, if you can scroll after that policy, and if it's okay, I'll narrate. So line 60, that ILM doc tells you, like, because you're going to bootstrap the first index, you need to get set up starting on line 60 for all the future indices. So we today are going to be working off of an alias is going to write into, hey there, Delilah. That alias is going to back up two indices that like end in like 001 or something, right? So each time it's going to create an index based off of that template. Yeah, you can hit play. It's going to apply these index settings. Now, highlighting, first thing we're breaking is we did not put in the rollover alias. So this index template is going to cause an error for us on the first index that we go to create. However, we're going to fix it, and then we'll fix it here in the index template so that future indices work correctly. So if we can scroll down, the next part of the ILM tutorial says once you have your index template and your index policy, you can create your first index. So this first index, it sets the alias, hey there, Delilah, and an alias is separate than rollover alias, but eventually the two of those should match on what their name is. The reason for that is which alias you use for rollover is not guaranteed to be the only alias associated to an index. Coincidentally for us, they overlap. So you're good to hit play.
I keep clicking all over trying to like be a part of the conversation. I realize I'm not good at like puppeting what's happening.
Dude, you're good. I think anytime you're running API commands, you're just like, "Ah, okay, like this is the next one, go team."
Oh goodness,
Um, cool.
is it?
So at this point, our index exists. So earlier under hot phase, we said rollover only when it has a single doc. That's crazy low. Just so we're clear, Elastic's recommendation is like your shards end up sized like 10 to 50 gigabytes, right? Like, so one doc is crazy small. Again, only to show it breaking. But let's go do it. So line 80, if you scroll down, we're gonna go create a doc.
Okay, line 80.
Or sorry, you
Wait,
can like scroll down more. Like we're gonna create a couple of docs. Yep, just click through. We're creating docs. So indices by default have a refresh interval of 1 second, so we're not gonna probably hit it, but just in case, scroll down more. We're gonna go do a manual refresh in order to guarantee that all of those docs make it into the committed state. And then afterwards, if we run cat indices, normally at this point, you would expect that that first index has somewhere between 1 and 3 docs, and then afterwards a second index is created.
We didn't put a cat indices.
We did. It's the next line down.
Oh, it is right here. I didn't see it.
I
Thank
got you.
goodness. I was like, where is it?
And he's like, "You're giving me trust issues. What's happening?"
Like, we should have had everything here. I just skipped right. Sometimes I just like black out in anxiety.
Dude, same, same.
All right.
Okay, so we don't have a second index, which we would have thought we would have. So first thought that you're like, maybe this isn't going my way.
First indicator. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah. So we're going to run an ILM explain. Again, we didn't set the rollover alias, so I bet it's erring about rollover alias. Awesome.
Oh, we made a bet.
Oh
Even though
yeah. Do you
we
want to
call
post bet?
not post bet.
Okay.
We're not those people. No, we don't retrospectively bet. We would be extraordinarily wealthy if we did.
That's fair.
Okay. So we ran our ILM explain. Take me away, guide me through this output.
Awesome. So what we end up carrying for our index, line 11 says phase is hot. Line 13 says action is rollover. Line 15 says step is error. Line 17 says failed step is check rollover ready. So we know that it got caught attempting to perform the rollover for us. And then the reason it got caught is under step info, line 20 and line 22, right? It's literally telling us like, hey, I don't think you thought you set that, but you didn't set that. So you should set that,
I
right?
don't think thought.
I thought you didn't think. Oh, you're saying it's a nonsensical sentence. Sorry. I thought it was a cute sentence.
Sentence.
I think you failed to think. Moral of the
That is
story.
very relevant to my
Moral of the
interest.
story, we should fix it, right? So on the left-hand side, if we can scroll back up to the index template, let's fix the index template first. Sorry. I said scroll up and you did so kindly. So line 60, I like left what it is after the double colon. Line 60, one up.
My goodness. Here we go.
You're good. Yeah. After the double colon, starting at the double quote to the end of the line. We can just copy all of that. Yeah. And then line 66, add a comma, hit enter, and then paste that in. Yeah. So now that looks like the doc. You can hit play to update that index template. So now that looks like the doc. This is what it originally should have been, right? But that doesn't fix the existing index.
Right.
So if we can scroll down on the left-hand side, we just need to do an index update settings. Scroll down more. Under resolve A. Yep. Line 100. Scroll
The
down.
problem, Steph, I can't scroll down anymore.
If you hit your cursor, command down, and then start hitting enter, it should give you more lines at the bottom so that then you can scroll. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so to resolve A, yeah, line 101, we're going to add in a rollover alias.
Okay. Going to add my rollover alias now.
Yep. Our polling interval is 10 seconds, so it's probably already ILM retrying, but if you needed to trigger it, line 103, we're going to say ILM retry. And so this occurs when it already retried for us. Yay! That's actually a happy message.
I'm glad this popped up. I do feel like this is misleading and adds a lot of stress sometimes. So perfect.
Yeah. So at this point, it's not erring. So we can go back to cat indices, line 93, and we should now see that there's 2 indices. Yay! But guess what? We set 2 hot and 1 warm, so I bet index 1 is still erring. So let's go look at the next error. Line 95, we'll run ILM explain again. Okay, so
Okay.
we ran ILM explain against the alias so that we can see both indices. So line 4, we see index number 1 is line 15 in check migration, and it is erring line 18 about that migration. It's not erring. Sorry, this is the difference. An index is not necessarily erring, but caught in a transient step, and therefore we could expect this one to eventually show under stagnated indices. If we scroll down though, index number 2 is in check rollover ready, but it hasn't received enough docs to rollover. However, it would have already erred if it had failed to have a rollover alias associated.
Oh no, I can't get to the bottom.
That's okay. I don't know what's wrong with it. I don't care. Get on Chrome, right? I was like, enough of it shows for us. So
Okay.
yeah, so at this point, um, Annie, I have 2 hot nodes, 1 warm node. How would you try to solve?
I personally would add another warm node because
Agreed.
primary replica relationship. What cannot exist where the primaries exist? The replicas.
Yeah,
So
I heartily agree. If it's production, you definitely should be adding a second node.
yes,
But
always.
always add a second node?
No, I'm just gonna celebrate high availability. I feel like
Oh,
like regularly send to customers just a little sneaky high availability. Please consider high availability. And it's just because I want your data to be safe and I want your heart to feel peace when you're in production.
I
Okay,
heartily agree.
good. I'm so
If I can ask though, because when we kick off a plan, it might take us a little bit. Do you mind if we induce a third index and also break it
I would love
before we show? Thanks.
yes.
Okay, so again, not in production. And again, secondly, we are purposely breaking ILM. We do not actually recommend doing this. We just want to show you. Line 106. For that one index, let's at least get it past the warm phase. So
Okay.
we're going to disable the replica. Again, not something you do in production, but we're going to do it as party people today. So let's disable the replica. Now that shard can migrate. So hit play on that. And then on line 108, ILM retry. It already
And
retried for us. It's so on the ball. I love it.
I love when it's like super apparent that Elasticsearch just kind of took care of us. It's so
Um,
really good.
at this point, line 87, can we induce another doc or like induce a couple of docs in order to force another rollover so that we get a third index?
Yeah.
Just so that we have 3, for example. Awesome. And then line 92, hit refresh. Line 93, eventually we should be eventually getting a third index in there.
I liked that tone.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay,
Really
line 95, we should potentially be showing the third index is not erring because the rollover alias is fixed. The second index should now be showing the migration issue to warm tier. Yeah. But we just introduced a third problem, which is now showing on the index listed at the top. And that is, guess what? There's no frozen tier. And so it's like, I don't know what you're trying to do. And you're like, I'm trying to save the world. Hey there, Delilah. Like, come on, dog.
Hey
So,
there, Lida, to tell us what it's like in New York City.
yes. So at this
It's
point, to Annie's comment, we are ready to expand our hardware to match what we want our software to do. Again, Elastic Cloud, you could have enabled auto scaling, but we are ready. Annie, take us away. Let's go add some nodes.
okay. Going to our admin console, it's incredibly easy to scale up your hardware. You'll want to go to Edit, and here you will see all of your different data tier options. So we have hot data, hot data, and tier content tier. Sorry, my dyslexia just really
You're
whipped
good.
those in different directions. Warm data tier, cold data tier, frozen data tier. So as previously indicated in our ILM explain, we have two issues currently happening related to our hardware configuration. We're going to start not with index 1. We're going to go to 2, and we're going to address this migration reference where it is looking for that second warm tier because the replicas have no home. Cool?
Cool.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just change from 1 zone to 2 zones. One thing to highlight between hot and warm tier that I think is important, and Steph, you can tell me if you think it's irrelevant for the video. It's best practice to have your warm tier be half the size of your hot tier, right? So this is showing as 8 gigabytes, it should be 4 gigabytes. But that could be something that I was just taught in principle for my own happiness. Is that
I
wrong?
I agree that we say that frequently for people who don't know how their data is going to set up. Like that's the baseline philosophy we tell people. But an alternative setup is like, say you do SIM ingesting and you're like extremely intensive in the first hour, but then you shift data to warm for the first 3 days for intense searching, and then afterwards, like you go about your business, right? In that situation, your warm tier would be huge, right? Like it
Huge.
wouldn't be half the size of hot. But I agree, as baseline, right? Like if you don't know, then that's fine. But if
Okay,
you like, right, like the sim solution as the example, like sometimes your warm tier is pretty beefy.
cool. Okay, awesome. I'm glad I threw that in.
You're good. If I
Um,
can also ask though, because if we're going to kick off a plan, let's only kick off one plan. So let's also fix Frozen.
all right, yeah, you're right. Let's kick off one single plan. This is actually kind of a bad habit I have. So going back, let's just reference what are we trying to correct with adding a frozen tier? We're trying to fix the first index newest error of no tiers for data frozen. And just going back to our plan and reviewing, we did in fact add a frozen tier. So we're going
Yeah.
to hop back over to the edit screen. In our deployment, we're going to scroll down to frozen tier, click add capacity, and we'll just do one single zone.
Yeah. So highlighting Annie's call out, the Frozen tier is a searchable snapshot tier. Searchable snapshots do not actually require having a replica. So at this point, the data is cached in snapshot, and therefore that is your backup, and therefore you are fine. So for us, we're just going to set Frozen at 1 zone, and we'll be golden.
You can't see it because the way I set my screen share, there is a save button at the very bottom left that is blue. Click save. It's going to go and give us an overview of everything we want to change. It's going to go. Elastic, holy moly, our UI is going to give us an update of the changes we're intending to make. And I really like this because sometimes I definitely click stuff when I'm just thinking and I don't mean for it to change. So this is great. So we're adding a frozen tier at 4 gigabytes. That's just default. It can be changed and edited to your deepest desires. We're going to set nodes to 1 zone in frozen, change zones from 1 to 2 in warm. There are obviously no changes anywhere else. And this should solve every single problem we have. Just kidding.
Fingers crossed.
All right, so it's going to immediately fling us to the activities page, activity, singular, and you'll see that it's kicking off our plans. And from a previous video we already discussed, we are going to update Elasticsearch first, and then it will kick off the Kibana plan change.
Agreed. So at this point, do you mind if we go back to DevTools? So we went hot into warm into frozen into delete. Guess what? All of those by default are probably sitting at like 0 milliseconds. So if we are successful, all of our indices are about to disappear, which is on me. Do you mind if we run get ILM policy together and see if my fear is true? So like scroll to the top of the policy and just copy the first line of it. Yeah, copy line 24 and change from a put to a get.
Oh, the whole thing? Okay.
No, I mean, you had it. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know. I was like, wait,
I
what?
said it poorly. Sorry. Yeah, hit play. And then let's see. So min age, hot is 0, warm is 0, delete is 0, and frozen is 0. So back editing our policy, we can edit it live while that plan's going because it's still adding the tiers. On line 51, so on the right hand side, line 24, you can see it says min age 0 milliseconds. Will you copy that? And then line 51, between 51 and 52, will you paste that? And then let's change it to 1 day, or 1 and then D is in day.
Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, and then we can hit play on that.
Okay.
And then it depends, race condition, which happened first? Stephanie saying to update that policy, or the plan already completing and ILM already kicking off? Hey, we'll find out together. If anything, we can just go create all the indices again.
Yeah.
Easiest way to find out, can we go run cat indices again and we'll see which indices are there? Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, 3's there, so at least I caught it for that one in time.
We have one.
Yay! So the
Create.
happy news, right? Like ILM retried, index 1, which was in frozen, finally successfully completed, delete successfully completed, index 2 also, right? Finally got past its warm blocker, got into frozen, got into delete. Index 3, thankfully, race condition between our plans is caught somewhere. The question is it caught? I don't think it's having a problem at all. I think we didn't add any docs into index 3. So I think it's still on check rollover ready. Can we go run ILM explain?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Whee!
Cool. So this is still sitting in check rollover ready. So can we, like lines 84 to 91, can we create a couple of docs and then hit
Mhm.
refresh? So we should bump straight to, or we should see ILM progress through to frozen and then sit in frozen for 1 day now before eventually deleting. And we'll definitely record that video of waiting an entire day. That was my joke. Was it too subtle?
Oh my gosh, it was because I was thinking through what I
Okay.
needed to do next. Ugh,
Ah,
sometimes it's too smooth. I'm sorry. Say it again. I'm ready.
no, that's
Okay.
fine. I thought it was funny. I just wanted to call it out. That was my kind of humor.
I
Can
was
we
like dead focused. I'm sorry.
you're good. Can we run line 96?
Yes.
So I think we
Oh,
should have two indices now. Ooh, oh yeah, because we hit to add 3 docs, right? And then
I
it's
did.
that like 1 second
Oh,
race condition. Awesome.
yeah.
So line 98, ILM explain. They may have already gone hot into warm, into frozen. Like they may have already moved for us, but let's find out. So number 5 is the current right. Where's the next one at?
Hold
We
on.
can't
I got.
say. That's chill. Next one is in frozen, complete. We did it!
That's the one that
Yay!
didn't get deleted. So that's
Oh,
the original,
yeah.
the last original index for everybody who is waiting with bated breath.
'Tis I, for sure, Z's.
Okay.
And that one moved too. Look, this is how ILM should have originally set up and looked super happy.
Yeah. Perfect. There is a get health indicators that's showing status screen as well as ILM running, but we can't see it because again, I made the screen too short.
That's chill.
Um, cool. So everything is working as expected.
Awesome. Okay, so we can't see it, but outlining from the health report's going to be telling us that everything's green and that there's no stagnant indices. If earlier it had actually been reporting indices for us, it would have given us that list of indices
I can
to
actually
go look at.
hear.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So under 8, stagnant indices is 0. If there had been a list, it would have given us that array of indices to check. And then you can run ILM explain against each of those individually. Do you mind, Annie, though? The health API is beyond lovely, but sometimes I like showing people kind of the like older way to go check those indices in that table format. Do you mind if we run some JQ?
Not even a little bit.
Cool. Can we run line 98 again? You may need to give a line break. I didn't realize those were both running together because they're side by side in DevTools, but that's cool. Yeah, so this will only give the output for that. Can we copy it? And then for everybody at home, JQ is a third-party JSON processor that just can help you like parse through JSON files pretty easily. So we're just going to go to an online JQ playground.
And again, don't use your live data if it's
Yes, don't paste production data into an online JQ playground.
this is your if you're learning and excited, we're not encouraging anyone to post live production data in JQ
Yes.
Play.
Uh,
Disclaimer.
the JQ page can tell you like how to install it. Locally, I install it with Bash. It's just a Bash brew JQ install. But can we paste our JSON into the left-hand box? Excellent. Okay, so it's going to do JSON processing for us for whatever query we end up setting at the top. So if we can click into that top box, so it's going to be dot indices and then an opening and closing square bracket.
Oh my
I
goodness.
love that this shows you live. Like this is the actions you're taking live in that output box.
I man, writing like typing this live is
You're like, I am doing excellently. Yeah.
all my years of like pair programming. I'm like, oh gosh, nothing makes me sweat more than just like typing in front of people. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go.
After square brackets, let's just show like dot index. So we can see which indices ended up showing for us. Hey, it's those three, right?
Boom, boom.
Um, Instead of dot index, we can write a more complicated string starting with a up and down pipe without the dot. So we can say dot phase, sorry, dot phase.
Man, I'm sorry you said that.
No, you're totally good. It's always going to say like phase is not defined at a top level, and it's just telling you like I think you tried to use a variable and I don't know what that variable said, right? It's like my number one indicator of like you missed the dot. So we're going to end up exporting a string. So it's going to be dot phase, same line, plus, and then in double quotes a slash plus, and then dot action uh, plus in double quotes a slash again, and then that step, since that's like that main thing we were looking at before. So plus that step.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said and then that step, and I was like, and then
Oh,
that step.
yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, so this colloquially, not officially, right, like is the where ILM is currently, right, is its phase action step. So here we can see for those earlier indices, the one that we said is currently accepting writes is in hot rollover, check rollover ready. The other two, because we set ILM to progress so fast, are already searchable snapshots down and frozen. But in the future, if we were experiencing issues on our cluster, we could easily use this. That errors would explicitly say the step is error, and other ones would show like warm migration, right? And like you'd know that was a transient step to potentially go look at.
Okay, so I think it would be fun just to go and confirm what JQ is very cleanly showing in our console and in our previous output. So back to the top, step, check rollover ready for index 5. Scrolling down to the next index, step complete. Last index, action, no. Step complete.
Yeah, I really do love this, right? Like, and kind of as you're highlighting, like the JQ put that into a really compact form, but for people at home, right? Like when you're checking indices, you kind of want to see what phase, what action, what step. Those three together are how you're gauging and what the health API is really reporting for you. Highlighting, Dev ended up accepting our feature request in order to have those same columns show in the cat indices in a future version. So hopefully here soon, right? Like You're not even going to be using JQ. It's just going to be built in, which is awesome. I love dev, like just adding in niche things like that. Just being like, yeah, you want more data? I'll give you more data.
Yes, and I feel like having more explicit data and, like, explicit output helps my brain because sometimes I just am everywhere and I miss things, and I feel like they make such an effort to make it very verbose. So,
Yeah, good
I'm
on them.
grateful. I know.
Yeah,
We love
cool.
our dev team.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so at this point, we've shown ILM Health. From Elastic Cloud, its health page loads the Elasticsearch Health API, which easily shows you when ILM issues are occurring. We don't
Good.
have any issues
Now.
because we fixed it. Yeah. But when
Yes!
ILM issues are occurring, you can go list the health API and then later investigate with the ILM explain. Each one of those are going to output messages that tell you what to do, right? And how to fix those issues so that your data is sitting happily and healthily in your production cluster. And we all can actually have our weekends and not be on calls on silent on call weekends.
Yeah. We deserve silent nights.
Amen. Solid amen.
Everyone does. We made it. I'm
Yeah,
so glad. Yay!
awesome. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We will see you on our next video.
Bye.